5 years ago, I started seeing a therapist. At that time, I felt panicked that I wasn't enough to get into medical school. Not my application, not my transcript, but me, the person. Today, I'm a doctor, an anesthesiology resident in New York City who also helps thousands of premeds get into their dream medical schools. I'm going to share 5 brutal truths, one for each of the last 5 years, things that I wish I knew when I was a premed, panicking about my future. Brutally honest truth number 1, you're behind. Sandra has 3 publications already and she's only a sophomore. And Ben, he's already finished 100 hours of shadowing and is a medical assistant on the weekends. He's only a freshman. What you don't know is that Sandra's older sister is a senior. She just got into medical school. Her mother is a PhD in biochemistry and she started research when she was a junior in high school. And Ben never told you this, but his mom is a janitor at a medical clinic. And during her shift, she asked if her son, Ben, could learn a little bit more about what doctors do at her clinic. What's happening is you are comparing your behind-the-scenes struggles with their highlight reels. Don't forget your story. Maybe both of your parents can barely speak English, much less help with a research publication. Or that you sent 50 emails for shadowing and no one has responded, but the next 50 you send, someone will. You don't have enough context in this small window of time, so judging yourself based on it is not fair. Ultimately, your classmates' successes are not your failures. You track your own progress only against who you were yesterday. So when your friends cook, go ahead and celebrate them without comparison. Remember though that feeling behind can be helpful. It lights a fire under you so you take action. And the most important action to take is to truly figure out whether or not you are competitive. To do that, you'll need to know what good really looks like. So take a look at some real strong applications that were actually accepted into medical school. We have 8 full AMCAS applications that earned acceptances to the best medical schools in the country. And today, over 13,500 premeds are part of our community. To join, click the application database link in our description box below now. Brutally honest truth number 2, unique isn't competitive. Busy isn't competitive either. I'm ordering ramen for dinner today and I want it to be tasty. The fact that the ramen comes quickly doesn't mean it'll be tasty. The fact that the ramen is expensive also doesn't mean it'll be tasty. It tasting good means it's tasty, none of the other things. The same is true for your pre-med journey. You want to be competitive. Just because you're unique, let's say you have a minor in poetry, that doesn't mean you're competitive. And just because you're busy working 500 hours in a meaningless hospital volunteer gig also doesn't mean you're competitive. And when I reflect back on my pre-med journey, it was these silly games that I thought I had to play which made me panic the most. I have to get clinical research because everyone says it's the most efficient extracurricular. I have to join a crisis hotline because it is unique and impactful. Ultimately, that wasn't me, and doing these unique things just to stay busy didn't make me any more competitive. So stop doing those things. You don't have to be extraordinary or out of the norm in order to be compelling and competitive. In fact, you can just be the best version of you. That is what true competitiveness looks like. Next, we're going to talk about the one perspective shift that completely changed my relationship with pre-med anxiety. And while it didn't take away all the nerves, it gave me back control. But before that, if you're applying to medical school in the next year or 2, you don't want your emotions clouding your judgments. You don't want to make the wrong decisions. Fear can make us think that we're not as competitive as we actually are. Or worse yet, it makes us overcompensate and we think we're really competitive when in reality, we're not. If you're applying to medical school, we'd love to support you. Our pre-med Catalyst students who submit their applications on time have a 92% acceptance rate. That's more than double the national average. And our results are because we work so closely with students. In fact, we can only take 4 students per month until we're full. If you'd be interested in getting into some of the strongest programs in the country, click the application cycle advising link now to book a free strategy call before we're full for the cycle. Brutally honest truth number 3, you're right. If you're anything like me or most pre-meds, the scariest feeling is feeling like you don't have any control. Gen Chem is graded on a curve, so even if you did fantastically well yourself, did you do well enough relative to your peers? How they do isn't up to you, and that is frightening. Today, I want to hand you back the control and power that you deserve. Henry Ford is quoted as saying, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." If you think you won't ever be competitive for med school, you're right. And if you think you can put in that extra effort to earn an A, get that publication, you're also right. You make your own decision because you have the power to. And from where I'm sitting, one option is certainly far better than the other. Part of this pre-med journey is growing to earn your confidence. And personally, that's what I love most about supporting the next generation of doctors. I remind all of us that you will eventually care for me and my loved ones. So if you're applying to medical school in the coming year or two, it would be an honor to support you. But we just don't have the bandwidth to support more than 4 students per month. Click the application cycle advising link to book a free strategy call before we can't take on any more students for the cycle. Brutally honest truth number 4. Midterms look different from up here. 5 years ago, I got into my dream med schools, USC and UCLA. And 5 years before that, I was graduating middle school. When you measure your life in days, midterms are that terrible monster that keep you up late at night. When you measure your life in years, midterms become that happy memory, that time you and your best college friends were hunkered down at 3 a.m. studying Gen Chem problem sets. And so if it won't matter in 5 years, don't worry more than 5 minutes. Brutally honest truth number 5, 904-635-504. That is my UCLA ID number. I'll never forget it because for every class, that was what I was known as. In public service announcement, we're not just ID numbers. To a group of a dozen 10-year-olds, I'm not an ID number, I'm Coach Mike. And our team, the Hoopers, won a summer championship in Parks and Rec. And maybe you're a pop culture trivia goddess. Every Easter egg in Severance or White Lotus, you're all over. You are more than just a pre-med, just a ID number. Admissions is stressful enough, and it is worse when pre-meds are forced into a box. I learned that part of my anxiety was being forced to play that game, a game that didn't feel genuine and authentic to myself. I know now that you don't have to play that game. I know now that when you exit that cookie cutter pre-med culture, you start leaning into what makes you you. And in actuality, that's what medical schools are looking for, the best version of you. And now that you know how to reinterpret your anxieties around your pre-med journey, you'll want to know the 10 brutal truths that I wish I knew when I was a pre-med. That video is here. Thanks, goodbye.